reading series called The Narrative World. Today I am going to read out from Dr. Santosh Bakaya's insightful and inspiring book, Only in Darkness Can You See the Stars. It is a must-read book. Dr. Bakaya is an eminent author, poet, and an academician, and this book is a very well-researched biography on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s formative years. In the chapter, The Early Years, she writes, and I quote, "On 15th January 1929, a little after noon, brooding clouds hung low on this cold Saturday, keenly watching over the birth of a black child in white America. Yes, it was no big deal, as there was no dearth of black children in white America. Nameless children who were called niggers. Children who grew up to be big men, but were still called boys. Little bewildered children who were called dirty and ignorant and shunned by white mothers. Children who could not visit certain places merely because they were colored differently." Unquote. Dr. Bakaya's prose runs smoothly on paper. Her words find life as we move through the descriptive passages she engages us with, especially where she describes about the death of Martin Luther King Jr.'s grandmother, whom he refers as Mama. Her death had a deep impact on young Martin's life. Dr. Bakaya writes very lucidly, and I quote, "The house was filled with Mama's presence, but she was physically absent. The pain of death had slashed its way into his young life, too young to comprehend the fragility of the thing that the elders called life. His world had fallen apart, broken at the seams. Would it ever be set right?" Unquote. For me personally, the episodes in this book that deals with Dr. King's India visit were very interesting. I shall read out a small passage that talks about what happened when he landed in India. And the passage is, "When they reached Delhi on 10th February 1959, via a roundabout route because of a fog, they received a grand reception and were looked upon as brothers with the color of our skins as something of an asset. But the strongest bond of fraternity was the common cause of minority and the colonial people in America, Africa, and Asia, struggling to throw off racism and imperialism." Unquote. I learned a lot in these pages that I was not aware of before. Dr. King was accompanied by his wife Coretta King and Lawrence Riddick in this trip, and Dr. Bakaya mentions later in her book, and I quote again, "This 4-week pilgrimage to India left an indelible impression on their minds, imbuing them with the spirit of Gandhi, which would greatly influence them in the years to come." Unquote. So his trip brought him a greater understanding of the principle of nonviolence. The book has been published by the New Delhi-based Vitasta Publishers. It is a wonderfully informative book, a spellbinding tale depicting a very different time, with abundance of information, and I hope reading it will further encourage people, especially the youngsters, to explore more about Dr. King's life. His influence continues to be relevant even in these times, and reading this book by Dr. Santosh Bakaya helps us to understand why it is so. It is a must read, friends. Grab your copy and enjoy the book. Goodbye. Thank you.